So I wanted to mix it up a little bit and bring in someone from outside the program that I've sort of been working with a little bit, just as a sort of a consultancy sort of space over time. And so this is Donald, and I'm going to do the official readout, and then I'm going to have my own opinion on it all. But Donald Bresson is a managing director of Nomad, the label. He's based in the New South Wales Central Coast, not far from you. I don't know. No, it's not. You guys aren't. Okay. I don't know anything outside of Victoria, so we'll just leave it at that. So Donald and his wife Louisa, who's over there as well, they have a women's fashion label, and it sells comfortable clothing primarily made from linen, made in Bali or Indonesia?
All in Bali.
Amazing. And you guys are now on track to be a profitable 8-figure direct-to-consumer brand. So amazing growth they've seen. So you've managed to scale from $1 million in revenue in 22 to over $4 million this year, while many other clothing brands, I guess, have not seen that sort of growth over time. So it's going to be a really interesting story. And I think I initially met you, Donald, when in the Shopify Australia group. And I know most of you guys are on there, and I tend to put my face up there a little bit. I think you were selling a business or something, or you had another business at one stage?
Yeah. So my wife and I used to sell a boho clothing label, very more colourful, beachy style, and we sold it both at the markets and as well as online. I think we took a little while to get it up and running and to get the traction online, but we were actually very successful at events, and we would have attended events from Port Douglas to Port Fairy and at least like 100 events in between selling our wares. So that was relatively successful when I first sort of dipped our toe into the ecom world.
Yeah, I think because when I think you spoke to me, it was like you had a couple of business online stores, didn't you? And you're like, what do I do with these? What should I do? And I think then you made a decision, didn't you, on what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so knowing what I know now, that particular business probably would never have got to the heights that Nomad has achieved. And just to give you some further context in that, we've been able to sell the last 2 months, say, over 700,000 both in October and November without providing any other discount other than the 10% initial sign up to the newsletter. But the things that we didn't have in place now, the things absolutely critical to success is the unit economics. So it's very difficult to be selling something that's quite similar to everybody else. It was a boho brand. You could say it was a cheaper version than some of the others, which is never a success online. You need to have a particular type of audience, what we would refer to as our Nomad woman, have an ICP that you are squarely and laser focused on more than anybody else. So when the COVID hit, we'll just say in March 2020, whole world turned upside down. We had so many months of events that were scheduled at the time, and that really turned everything crazy for us. And I think I was lucky enough due to the JobKeeper to hold my job in the tech recruitment world. At the time, Louisa had a bit more free time and came to me with the idea of actually setting up Nomad, the label. She wanted to design clothing was more for what she was looking to wear, more sort of natural fabrics, not so much peacocking as we would say, more of an elegant sort of natural fabrics. And at the time I was really dead against the idea. I thought it was crazy. The world was like just totally turned upside down at the time. The share market was plummeting. We all had settled into getting the payments, but still there was a lot of uncertainty was happening in the world, and I was totally against it. But thankfully, she was gung-ho. There was no stopping her, and I had to get behind her. And I was quite fortunate in the years running up to that, in the sense that I was rubbing shoulders with a lot of the top sales and marketing people in SaaS, and these people get crazy money. So you've got the Silicon Valley SaaS businesses coming over to this region, and they want to get as many large companies on board as they possibly can before the IPO, and they get rich and, right off into the sunset. But one of the things that I had learned from consuming all of the podcasts and listening to all the experts in that is that you have to be laser focused on your ideal customer profile. So I remember when we were living during the isolation period and pacing up and down our living room, talking about this woman that we now call the Nomad woman, and that we would actually design clothing that was meeting her needs better than anybody else. And what that actually lady looks like is she's over 40. She wants to be we'll just say get compliments, but she doesn't want to be necessarily loud. She wants to wear comfortable clothing that's stylish and makes her feel good while she's wearing it. And thankfully, what we've actually found is that this is less catered for online. Specifically, it's probably because when you have digital marketing people, they're more used to looking at a larger audience, maybe a younger audience, where we have found this lady that is less catered for online. So the reason I bring all of that up is that we would never have been so successful being another Me Too type of brand, doing something that so many others are doing. To be successful online, you need to find something that's different, something that the big box retailers just aren't covering as much, and to resonate with that particular type of individual better than anybody else. So although we find it hard to sort of give up on our original brand because we had built it up from scratch, it would have never been as successful. So when we were having those discussions initially about how, well, I was just trying to sell that on so I could like double down and completely dedicate our time to Nomad. And as hard as that may be, because that's like your little baby that originally got your foot into ecom, that was one of the best decisions I ever made.
That's really interesting. So I think there's some words I take away from there is definitely the passion from Louisa on following what you really believe in, finding a real market fit, like a niche market fit. And, it's about, there's a saying I once heard, which I really like, about not being the biggest in the world, but being the biggest in their world. So that's all about niche and understanding that, okay, if you're that modern woman that, likes that luxury feel linen, that's the brand you have to have. Right, and I thought this is not the same type of brand, but I think of a brand that does that really well, which is in the streetwear space. It's like G'd Up. If you guys have heard of G'd Up, they are a massive brand, but no one in this room would wear it. Maybe I don't know. No, you don't, because you got Cartel. They're a competitor of yours, right? But no one in this room will wear it. But they have owned their community in their space, and you guys own that community in your space, don't you?
Definitely, and that is the marketing. I feel like that you've got to be able to both tell that story. You can even have the best product in the market, but without being able to have the right messaging and be able to cut through, have something that's particularly unique. And I think most particularly as well, find that woman, in our instance, who's willing to pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you don't know the difference between regular linen and high quality linen, you can probably go to Target and get it. But if you are somebody who's passionate and you want to wear that and you want to follow a brand that's a little bit different than what people are walking around, Suzanne's or whatever else is out there, our woman is looking for something that when somebody asks her about what she's wearing, she can tell that story. She feels an allegiance, and she resonates with that.
Amazing. So I'm going to go off script because this is pretty exciting. One of the things that, you have this premium luxury style brand and you have linen, and you've just said that I could go to Target and get linen, but I'm selling it online for 10 times the price, whatever it is. So how do you get that across to the customer when they don't get the touch or feel the product?
Yeah, I would say that you can do a range of things, but the most successful for us is video. So when the pandemic sort of hit and we were doing our production in Bali, as you can imagine, there wasn't any tourists there. So there's all these beautiful villas that were completely vacant, and a lot of them switched to doing photo shoots. So we were able to do this still imaging as well as the video there. And Louisa uses just Splice, very regular app, and she edits it. And we actually try to focus on the actual quality of the linen. There's other things that we're so fortunate that people, it's one of those ones where when you get a following, they know when they know, as in that they get you, they understand what you offer, and if you can reliably deliver that to them. For example, our linen is one that when she gets it in her hands, where she's been bought in by the marketing, and then she actually opens the packaging and it's an experience and she touches it, and then she goes, yes, I didn't get scammed by some Chinese, online retailer. This is a brand that's actually delivering what they say they're going to do. And our return customer rate is really high as a result.
So it's sort of like that compounding growth. Michael, go for it. Yeah.
So what about in the first days though? Videos look fantastic. Everyone can do them. So how can you communicate that before you've got customers, before you've got reviews, before you've had anybody actually touch the feel? What was the communication? Did you have something that helped you launch it because you can't get a sale, you can't
Well,
get people to touch
I would say it takes time, and you really got to find that product market fit. Like when we started out, we didn't know what we knew after a year and what we know after 3 years. So I suppose in some ways, it's not like that we instantly took off. We were still working it out, trying to consume as much information that's out there as about how successful brands go to market. But it's now, if I reflect back and go, well, what's been the game changers that's really moved the needle, and it's been video.
in the last few years.
In the last-
video.
100%, yeah, I would say that's a key.
Just try and get some customers and get it to spread.
Yeah, but there's some sort of things that just work. Okay, so my wife is.
I could say something.
Yeah.
I feel like from the get-go, we invested for the best people to assist us, and that was down to the photographer. We never went away with everything. We thought we're just going to give this everything that we had, and that was every cent that we had. So we spent the money on a top photographer in Bali, Australia. And I feel like her imagery from the get-go as well captured what our fabric was and the feel, everything we were trying to put out. And having a great relationship with her we still have 3 years later. Also the branding, it's just everything. I feel like everything we put into it from the get-go, was great quality. You can't always do that though. We made previous mistakes with the last brand that we did, and I think that we learned from that. All those mistakes we took to the next brand, thought this is what we're not going to do next time. That helped as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting point though. So the first sort of 1 to 2 years, because it's really only been the last 12 months that you've seen this, like this huge growth.
Yeah, probably the last 18 months. Like the thing that I would say is that you've got to find your product market fit. I'm not sure if you guys have already been speaking about that. When that has occurred, you will know, because you will get so many of the customers will be sharing this with you in the reviews and in emails, in the comments on Facebook, which is absolutely golden. So at the beginning, you don't know that. You're just trying to work it out, and you've got to be able to maybe test some things around the product as well as around the customer you're going after and how you communicate with them. So at the beginning, probably be patient, try things out, and then when you actually find things that work, double down on it.
Yeah.
Like for example, we have some pants, and literally we cannot make enough of these pants. We sell hundreds on pre-order while we're making them in the factory. We're still selling them, and we actually have ads that we started last, say, October that's been running for 13 months non-stop, and we just keep pushing more money into them, and people keep buying it. So those are the things that we tried in the recipe for success. I can only speak so much about the product. Obviously, my wife is more designing and crafting those to the needs of the woman. But I suppose where I've come into it is more the ecom, the technology, the marketing, but remaining laser focused on the nomad woman. And if I was advising, I'd be thinking, don't go broad. Until you actually get that product market fit, focus really narrow. Make sure that you're nailing this particular profile of individual and adding more value than anybody else in the market, because you're not going to beat the big, large retailers with that approach. You can, over time, as you be successful with that, start adding on different other audiences, but at least nail that first one.
So that whole sort of that feedback loop of where you're in that first year, second year, and you were learning and optimizing, was that like a change in product? Was it a change in how you went to market? Was it a change in marketing? So if we think about sort of as the evolution of learning and changing things around, what were the things that what were sort of the key points of understanding that you had that right product market? Like when did you just, okay, I think we've got it here. Like what changes did you make to get there?
I think that what we realized is that maybe to begin with, we didn't necessarily know exactly the age group of the woman. We might have been thinking, okay, we know that like it's an older woman, but not quite to that focus. And then as I was doing all the customer service, so I was covering so many different roles in it, I'd speaking to over 100 ladies, and just like we're doing now, having a very nice conversation. I love to chat with people, and I'd spent 10 years speaking on the phone, so it was natural just to like be gleaning information from them about the things that they liked or disliked. And there's even things around customer service. Like I'm even in this category myself, as I'm over 40. I don't really put up with as much bad service that maybe I would. And if I get good service and I feel like somebody understands me and goes further, I'm more likely to spend money with them. And this is the sort of thing that we were getting from this woman, where she didn't really feel like these larger other retailers that had all the excuses under the world as to why they weren't actually, providing good service. Like when COVID was going on, there was all those excuses. So I feel like listening to them, and particularly focusing in on the products that we're doing really well. So over 50% of everything we sell is these linen pants. We have different variations of them, but one of them is the Sudo pants in particular. And I feel like we just focused in on what worked with it, and then we had different versions of it that was successful.
So your feedback, it sounds like you, in those early days, you embed yourself in the business really closely. So you were doing customer service and you're listening to the woman, you were really refining who that focus point was. And then was that going back to Louisa to change the product or adjust the product, or how was that working?
Well, Louisa and I spend 24 hours a day together, so we're always in tandem. This isn't just like me or it's her, it's both of us are working together. And of course I don't know the clothing and how it's designed quite as well, but I'm speaking to the lady and then I would feed it back to her as to what I had learned and what they liked or disliked, both about the product and the service, so that we continually improving it. And then when we find something we like, we double down on it. And I think it's also important to mention that throughout this period that we're doing it, we're continually improving everything to do with the websites and the different technology, like what you do incredibly well. And if there's one piece of advice, and I'm probably speaking to all of the, people that are already converted into this, there's things that you'll have to learn yourself, and I'm sure you guys all do it. But then there's things that you need help with. I don't know if you probably do that. You watch a YouTube video or something, and it just doesn't look the same. It's like following instructions. Well, it didn't really happen. So yes, figure some stuff out yourself, but then also find your Sherpa. Someone like this man here, where they've climbed. I didn't pay him
for that.
Yeah,
thank you.
They have climbed the mountain before, and they have helped other people to climb the mountain. It will speed up your development. You're talking about this first year or two. Maybe I could have shortcutted that. Maybe I could have cut out 12 months working, figuring things out by just working with someone like yourself. I think that when I spent a lot of time myself in the early days on the Shopify Facebook group, I'm sure you many do, I would just be a little bit careful. There's a lot of limited beliefs there. They will never scale, many of those people, and sometimes they're just negatively talking about challenges, and they're looking for free products. What they should be looking for is that going to get me to the next level, and make that investment. I appreciate some people just don't have the time or money, whatever it is, but I'd be thinking about what is the tools, what are the systems, what are the processes that I can invest in today that's going to take me to the next level, and when I'm there, it will be what's fit for purpose, because you don't want to keep solving the same problems over and over again. Solve the problem, have it in place, and it be successful for your future growth.
Yeah, I think there's an investment in obviously time and money and learning that goes into growing some sort of brand, and a side hustle doesn't grow quickly. It's about what can you invest to actually get your business going? And you didn't just, obviously you've invested highly in the technical skills, which we'll talk about shortly, but you also invested in understanding who you were selling to, right? A lot of people don't invest in that. They're like, I've got a product, why don't they buy it? Well, they're not buying it because it's too expensive. Well, that's not the reason. The reason you sell a premium product, right? But your whole experience that the customer gets is at the premium level. So you've always said customer experience is, every time we talk, like customer experience is like the number one thing. It has to be number one. But not only that, your videos are beautiful. The aesthetic of their website is beautiful. So all the touch points that they have resonates with that ideal customer, right?
100%. And I'm sure you guys have heard Jeff Bezos talking about why they're successful. And he says in the boardroom, they sit around and one chair sits vacant, and that symbolizes the customer. And no decision goes through without realizing, would it be good for the customer? And we have built everything around our business for the Nomad woman. And in many cases, she wants to call us up and they say that it's so frustrating calling some of these other
Yeah.
businesses. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I hate calling Telstra. I hate calling CBA because they're talking to the lowest denominator, the most unintelligent people in the country. That's how they do it. So they're going, I'm on the Central Coast and my card's coming from Sydney. It's going to take 10 business days. That enrages me.
Yeah.
Why they can't just say, well, in most cases, it's 3 or 4 days.
They say the worst case. Yeah.
They do, because they don't want to be a case of they annoyed some customer. So what we do is we actually realize, no, our woman appreciates being tailored to her needs and speaking to her in the language that she wants, and that really makes an impact. There's so many other things that we do that we basically ask the question, would our woman appreciate that? And it's then that we build the processes, particularly around service, to do with it. You've probably guys come across it all the time. Trust is huge online. There is huge opportunity, and it's even one of our biggest problems that we even have now. With all the social proof that we have on our ads and our reviews, she's still skeptical of whether or not she will take the plunge. So building the trust, having telephone numbers, email addresses, respond to her, ask the questions, do more than anybody else that's out there, because in many cases, and I'm probably extreme on this, but they have less motivated people doing customer service. They don't care about it. They can't talk about the product because they're just thinking in their head, what did the manager tell me to say? We can do better, we can do more, and there's a customer out there that appreciates it and will pay more for it.
It's really interesting. So one of the things that I learned when I was at Brand Collective was with the Superdry brand, and if everyone knows that brand, it's built in the UK, it's $1 billion brand, and they always talked about Maverick, right? And Maverick was the guy's name. He was the Superdry customer. And the idea was that, exactly as you've said, everything that you do is you go, well, would Maverick like this?
Yeah.
Would we talk to Maverick like that? And when you walk down the street, I'm sure you guys can see that's the Nomad woman.
Oh, yes.
Right? You can picture your customer. So it's something we've talked about a few times in our groups is like, can you picture your customer? Like, who is the person that, is going to wear that product and what's their name? And sometimes by doing that, it means that you change your marketing message. It sounds like that's what you did. You've changed the way you do your video. You've changed the way you talk to them in customer service. You change the way you do your ads because you've got a person. You're talking to a person and people buy from people. Isn't that right? Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Even with the videos, like, for example, like, we've got to that stage where we've done most things in-house, and I manage my own Facebook ads, and I would encourage all of you guys to definitely do it. There's one lever you can change to propel your growth when you have everything in place, of course, otherwise you can be wasting money. I would say, my apologies, just got sidetracked in that particular one. But yeah, I'll go down the track with the Facebook ads. And so about 18 months ago, I took over it from a digital agency, and they were probably learning at the time. What I know today and invest in hundreds of hours to learn it, they were actually saying those same things to me that I can now tell that they were just learning. And we were only spending at that stage about $200 a day. I now spend about $5,000 a day, maintaining the same ROAS, maintaining the similar cost per acquisition. Unfortunately, the digital agencies, it's going to be a cookie cutter approach. They don't want to invest as much time in specifically knowing your audience. They never will. Our audience is a bit more mature, we'll just say, and a 25-year-old is never going to understand. I remember when I was in my 20s, you're thinking people at 40, they're just old. They're not online. And that's where our opportunity lies, because we're actually communicating and tailoring everything to this woman. And they were doing crazy things that even the agency that we recently took on board to look after some of the videos were making, for example, we couldn't believe it. They sent us the video and it was like the start of a thriller. Like, it was just like a murder was going to happen. Where we are all about comfortable living, calm, drama-free. Wear our clothing and you'll be relaxed, and life is just going to be a joy, and it's all about that holiday vibe and everything. So completely a disconnect to what our brand is. So we had obviously pulled them in line with that. So what I would say is try to be the master of that. Try to drive how you're going to communicate, how you're going to resonate with your audience better than anybody else. And the more narrow it is to begin with, the easier it will be to both cut through and differentiate yourself from the market, because the big retailers have to go across a big market. You can just focus in on that niche and do it better than anybody else.
Yeah, I think there's a really interesting point there around agencies. I know there's a couple of you that have used agencies in the past to do things for you. And while they may be technically understand the structure and the systems and the way things, the levers that work, what they don't understand is the perfect customer which you talked about and getting that across. And I had a similar instance with someone else I work with, and she's got an agency, and the same thing is young kids, 20-year-olds, young kids, 22-year-olds, I don't know, a lot younger than me. But yeah, they just didn't match the target demographic because they're used to TikTok and 15-second sprints, and it didn't really work. So that moves me into, I guess, the next question is what are so you've grown dramatically. We talk about the perfect customer, and that's the key to sort of everything. What are some of the strategies that you put in place for growth? So Meta's been big for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, so Meta's been huge, definitely been the driving force, but it is not exclusive. So when I was also trying to learn Facebook ads, I was also trying to learn Google ads and watching lots of YouTube and trying to figure it out. And I did realize that probably would be too much, and that the real lever could be pulled from Facebook, because you create the content. Content is king. You've heard it. It's absolutely something you should be doubling down on to get that right. Figure out whatever it is that's going to work with your customer, and that's what Louisa had done really well. But then I found a guy, and I met with him this morning. He's from Melbourne, and he is genuinely one of the best people in Australia when it comes to Google ads. And these two complement each other so well when it comes to ecom. You can scale 8-figure brand with just focus on those two. It's a formula that's successful for so many. And realizing that wasn't something that I could figure out myself, and then giving it to somebody that I trusted and could do it effectively, I think that was huge. I think in terms of not so much marketing, but systems and processes. So I've been involved in the technology industry for like over 10 years and helping guys to sort of build teams to sell it. So I love vendor selection and figuring out, okay, what is the tool that's going to best fit us? And there are tools at different stages that will work. And I think, to be fair, this is something that you do incredibly well, that you just know, like I could just say, okay, what's this? And you'll like name me all of the various review apps and all that. So you need to be able to find out what's going to work best for your business, that's going to be able to set that platform up. Again, not just to meet your needs today, but okay, if I do become 7-figure brand, 8-figure brand, that this is going to be able to support you. And I figure that's been also a really important, it means that you don't often have to hire everybody for every different type of role, where yes, I've got 2 customer service people at the moment, but then I have Gorgeous, and I brought in a guy to help me set up all the processes for that. So there's a lot of automation. So we can probably manage so many more inquiries from having those right processes in place. Things like Loop, for another solution that we brought on board, where maybe, and I genuinely remember looking at the solution about 2 years ago and really, how the hell is anybody paying that sum of money for the solution? But as you get to a certain scale and you appreciate automation and what it can actually mean for your business, that's a no-brainer. Like we paid them last month, I think, because every time that you scale and you get more returns, you got to pay them more, of course. And I think we paid them about $1,500, but that was great money well spent.
Yeah,
now, it wouldn't have been a lot earlier, because obviously we've grown with it, but that is a fantastic investment. And there's been so many of those decisions that they only might be 1%ers, but they really add up.
Yeah, so I think what I've taken from that is, when you start somewhere, you look at all the big guys and you go, geez, how do they do that? Like who would implement a return system that costs you $1,500 a month when Shopify has it for free, right? And you start to tell yourself that, and you're like, well, in your world, it removed a pain point out of your business, but you don't know that pain point exists until you get there. So, and it's a little bit, it actually aligns well to what we taught earlier, which was doing the things at the time where you are in your business, because, when you were a year and a half ago, you would never even thought of that, right? Even installing this video app that you've done recently, like you wouldn't have done that prior to it because your business wasn't there. So I think there's something that I often refer back to when you look at other brands and you look at them, and rather than, what is it? I think it's the actual saying, I'm going to butcher it again. I haven't been good at my sayings today. But if you look at a brand, rather than look at a brand and be like, oh, geez, I wish I was like them, you should aspire to be like them, not, actually, look down on them and be jealous of them. So don't be jealous, be aspirational, like try and aspire to be like that. So I think that's similar to your world, is when you're down early days, it's like, well, once I reach each of these pain points, how do I actually overcome those pain points? So don't solve the problem until the problem exists, I suppose, right?
Yeah, and hopefully, if you guys being here as a demonstration that you're pretty keen to be successful. There are some people out there that, like, David Fogarty and everybody else, and they've been hugely successful. Find out what they've done. I wouldn't just take one person's sort of solutions that's worked for them and say, okay, that's definitely going to be right for me. But try and glean as much as you possibly can. And I've done that for like 10 or 20. And when the problem came up, I was already aware of the solution. Like Gorgeous, for example, Loop. I knew they were, but it wasn't right for me until we actually got there. But I knew that the best ecom stores had these solutions. And they were kind of, to begin with, a little bit, maybe in some cases, a big expenditure that might have been slightly ahead of where we were, but I knew we were going to get there, and I knew it would be the solution that when we were there, we had it for the long term and have the ROI.
Yeah. So it seems like you've had lots of positive things that have happened in your business. I'm sure there's been some struggles and things that have been a little bit more challenging. Can you share any of those?
Absolutely. So we get our clothes made in Bali, and this is a completely different type of manufacturing that you probably associate with China. You can have these massive factories that I assume, and there's a lot more we'll just say consistency. Some of the good part of what we do is that it's a more of artisan, it's sort of handmade sort of clothing, which is great, and our woman really appreciates that, but it's small batch production. That can, as a salesperson that I am, be quite frustrating because it does limit what we can sell. Now that is part of our ethos, is not to just mass production, but that has had some challenges, particularly over... Well, I think we've always sort of had it, but we've seen some sort of little cracks appear. For example, it was about a month ago, we were going to drop a collection, and then 2 of the items actually did come through the quality control before we spotted it, and then we couldn't go live with those. So there is some frustrations and limitations to what they can do, and it's sort of good and bad. You wonder, can they always fulfill the orders? Can they always give us what we need? And we'll make an order, and this has been sort of the case for over a year now. We'll make the order, and then it will come in 2 months, and it's never enough because we've taken such a leap forward, and that compounding. And it seems like it'll always be the way. Now, we're pretty invested in Bali. Lou's got a lot of history there, and we've built up such relationships with these people that we're not moving away from it. There has been many brands, and we're familiar with them, and they've done the same as us. And then they went, no, we won't put up with any more of that sort of frustrations dealing with that smaller batch. We want to go big. And that is a consideration for us, but at the moment we're going to stay true to who we are. So I'd say that is, as a salesperson, and that is what I focus on, definitely can be frustrating.
Yeah, so supply chain, I think, is the biggest one,
it
sounds like. And it's what I like to hear there is you're still staying true to your core of your brand, because sure, you could go to China tomorrow and manufacture this, but that's not why people buy into your brand, right?
Yeah.
So would the Nomad woman want that? Of course not, right? There's another brand that I can't think of at the moment, but basically you have this idea where it feels like you're a small handmade brand that's very boutique, but you're obviously a lot bigger than that. But yet the buyer from that still feels like that Louise is probably making it in her garage, right?
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? Like it has that feel, it has that real handmade boutique-y feel that isn't mass produced, right? So the minute you move to Thailand or China or Bangladesh or wherever, you're going to miss the thing that is what's made you probably so unique.
We're trying really hard to keep ourselves in Bali by taking on more factories over there. We have a production manager on the ground, which is helping usually, that has contacts in Bali too.
Yeah.
Just constantly looking for ways
Yeah.
we can stay there and keep true to the brand too.
I think that's a really important piece that a lot of people miss is when you grow, you forget the thing that made you at the start. And if I think you've got a handmade business, right? Your business is growing, and you guys are. Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Australian made, handmade. It's like,
Yeah.
well, how the hell do I scale that, right? So it's like,
Wow.
but good business owners just solve business problems better than the other business, right? That's how you grow your business. You just solve problems better than other people. That's all their job is. So how do you solve that problem if you want to be a $100,000 a month brand? How do you do that? And it's interesting, there was one lady who was in our group last year and she did that really well. And she has a really good business. I'll call it Ewan from Teach It, right? So she runs the stamping brand and you can do custom stamping. Amazing business, right? You would think it's a small handmade mum and dad business. She has a team of like 12 people and she's pumping out hundreds of thousands of these a day. But it feels like the core to her business was this little mum business, but it's absolutely a massive business in the background. And so I think that's a lesson that I'm taking from you is stay true to your core and don't let anything get in the way of it, whether it be the money or the success or the growth, because it was the core that made you what you were.
Yeah, and we were even speaking about today, we're ambitious, but we're not wanting to be really $100 million business. That's not the lifestyle that we want or the brand that we see. We still want to keep it more like intimate and really connect with this smaller audience. Like it's big enough. Like it might only be 1% of the population, but there'll be plenty of these women around the world, which is like what our goal is to bring it to the world. Not necessarily to be massive, but to do it better than anybody else. And yeah, that's really important to us.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually a good segue. So I think we caught up in Sydney when the online retailer was on, and I think you were talking to me about, you want to go global, right? And this, 6 months ago, maybe? Would have been?
Yeah, I think it was in June, actually, was it?
Yeah. And so since then, you've gone global, right? So tell us a little bit about what you've done there and the results that you sort of did.
Yeah, so I researched it as much as I possibly can, and I still have to research it more to absolutely nail it next year in terms of what tools it looks like. But the first thing that I did was simply to go to Shopify Markets and to be able then to identify the locations that we wanted to sell internationally. Obviously, the US is the prime market that you want, but then you've got to look at something that I will get to even further in a moment, which is the economics of it. Because how are you going to send your product over there that they're going to be actually happy to receive it in a timely manner? So if you're using Australia Post, I'm sorry, I don't think it's going to work for most people. I know some people do, but it's like 2 weeks to send over there. Somehow, you've got to work out, how do I send something over there at maybe costing you $40 with DHL Express? You can possibly look at things like Seco, but you need to have 100 orders a day for them to look at it. So DHL Express is probably going to be your best bet. Most online retailers do use them. Very reliable, but very expensive. So what I actually did in that instance, and I did consult you on it as well, is like, how do we actually give the free shipping? Because free shipping to the customer means a lot. It will increase your conversion rate. So what we did, we just bedded the costs into the actual cost. So let's say we would actually have an average order value of around $240. To be able to cover the DHL Express, we needed to add 10% onto it. Now, luckily with Shopify Markets, the customer doesn't see that. They will actually just, in that particular geography, see the prices 10% more, and then if you're not familiar with it, it will round it up to that sum. So, and they're consumers. It's the biggest market in the world. They love things. There's women over there who want to shop for something that's a little bit different. The fact that it's an Australian brand probably is interesting to them. And we just dipped our toe in the market. So one of the things that I probably do really well is that I'm happy to wing it until I figure it out. Try it out, test it. Sometimes people are scared of making a mistake in case whatever. So you will refine your processes and improve as you learn more, but you don't know until you actually get it out into the customer's hands, find out what's broken, fix it as it needs be. So definitely Markets worked really well, DHL Express, but I'm going to do some different things going into the next year. If you get to the point where you want to look going online, you'll have to decide whether or not you want to set up a specific website for overseas. A lot of well-established brands do that, or else continue to go down the road of Shopify Markets. You can do some customization, but it's got its limitations. There's other two solutions that I looked at. One was Zonos, and that will be able to gather the duties and taxes. So when you're selling into a country such as Canada, they have a very low threshold. So they will actually need to pay taxes at the port. You can pay them in advance, but you probably want to do that. They're quite familiar with paying it, but you still get some customers that are not, and it's a bit of a surprise that they got this email from DHL that's looking for like $40 before they release the product at the port. But you can use software that can actually gather that at the point of sale. And the ones that I've seen to be the best is probably Global E. You probably want to be a big firm. They do take 4% of everything though. So at the moment I'm selling into the US, and we probably sold like over $1 million into the US over that period. And I would, in theory, if I was using their solution, have to pay them $40,000 for a problem that I don't really have. So when I want to go global, and I want to sell into Europe and the UK and Middle East and all of that, this solution is excellent because it covers all of the duties and taxes, all the legal aspects. You won't have to worry about it. You can just focus on your product and your marketing, but unfortunately they will take 4%. So it's something worth considering.
So the Shopify markets, so you can just turn it on, but sales don't just happen. Like, I don't know, if I turned on the US, I don't think I'm going to get $1 million tomorrow. What did you do to enter that market? Okay,
this is key. All right, so one of the things that I've learned from following the various genuine experts on LinkedIn and we'll say Twitter, now X, is that you have to have a hero product. Find what product sells the most. Well, that seems pretty obvious. What's got the most social proof? So you need that both on your ads. So if you think back what I was telling you before, I have ads that are running now for about 13 months. They have hundreds of comments. And so many women there's actually saying, oh, I got my product, I love it, it's so comfortable. And I actually respond to them within 5 minutes personally, and I tailor it a little bit. So where I'm going with this is that you want to duplicate that ad, send it into that particular marketplace, and they will have more confidence in it. That's your hero product. You've got to lead into new markets with that because she sees the comments, she gets confidence, obviously something big about this particular product. She goes into the product page, she reads the reviews, she gets a little bit more comfortable with the whole thing, and your conversion rate will be much higher. When I actually unfortunately had some periods where there was low stock on it, so I had to shift it to other products. It did not work as well. So if I have to give you one piece of advice, find your hero product, market around it. That's going to be the one that gets people in the door, hopefully has a really positive experience with you, and then you can start selling them other products over time.
So basically you picked up what was working in Australia and New Zealand, and you said, okay, let's just try this in a new market. And I guess it's so simple to do that now, turning on the US or turning on another region, then adding another market into your ad or adding a new ad. That's how you sort of went into market. You sort of had the testing done beforehand, right?
100%. Yeah. So I'd already figured out like what is the winning formula, and then I just use it in those regions. And to be fair, like the first few months, boom, like it was like June and July, which is prime summer months over there. There's a few trends that's happening in the world of fashion right now, like quiet luxury, and people who've got a little bit of money, they're not looking, they want to be elegant, they want to be less stated, and linen is really part of all of that. So I think we just sort of rid along with that trend that was happening at the US, and it picked up really quickly. Now it's tailed off a little. It's more expensive to advertise for us there now because it's cold. But we're still able to get like a 3 ROAS spending around about just $400 a day. And I'm just going to keep compounding that one through. And then come next May, June, when this warms up over the Northern Hemisphere, I really plan to hit it hard.
Yeah. So take your learnings, try them in another market, see what happens. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we adjust and do it that way.
Yeah, until you have something that's working really well, obviously don't go there. Yeah. When you find what is the formula, find your winning product, find the winning message, the creative, that's going to be really important. You need the social proof. All these things will go into her feeling more comfortable that she will make that initial purchase.
Love it. We are almost on time. I might just open up for a couple of minutes on questions. If anyone's got any questions for Donald at all. Ken had his hand up first. Sorry, Jess.
You talked about how when you first started, you focused on adding as much value as you can to your customers more than your competitors. What are things that you guys did as a business to add value to your customers?
Well, I sort of touched on it before, where I think that as you get a little bit older, maybe you're just not putting up with as much. How can I put that? You might become a bit more crankier. We'll just say that. But you know,
you get that customer service email like, oh, this silly. Yeah. I'm just going to reply back to them.
Yeah.
You don't do that. Is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And
We've
I
all been
feel
there.
like the woman that we're looking after, the Nomad woman, essentially, that annoys her in some ways. This cookie cutter approach. We were actually just more understanding her needs and communicating in a way that nobody else was doing. They're all trying little marketing techniques, gimmicky type things, and she's a little bit like, I like your product, looks nice, but I'm not going to go and buy it. She's a bit wary, like scam aware, where we were just trying to break down those barriers where she felt more comfortable talking her language better than anybody else. Because if you're a country road, who are you talking to? 20 million out of the 25 million people that's in this country. We're only looking at 1 million maybe, and we're just communicating more effectively, more precisely, targeting her in a way that nobody else is. So I think that is the true key to it.
We're pretty full on with our customer service as well. Two ladies are actually, they look after the customer service that are over 40 themselves. We don't have 20-year-olds. We've got ladies that can talk to our customers and resonate with them as well as consumers themselves. We're pretty hardcore. Jodie and I are really adamant on having fantastic customer service with people, and people that are kind and nice to our customers as well. We're very giving with our customers too. They don't have any issues. We just want to help them and refund very easily all the time because we just want them to be happy. Some of ourselves, you know, trying to call a company because you're unhappy with the product. You guys know what it's like. Usually it just gets shut down, don't you? And it's not a nice experience. So we don't ever want to shop that company again. So we are very hard with that.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, we get a buzz out of it. Like we must get like endorphins of just like doing what other companies is not going to do. Because if you think about even jobs you may have had yourself, like you always have to do what you've been told to do. I mean, well, when I speak to the customer, I can do whatever I want. I can tailor the solution exactly as she needs, and I can action it immediately. These are things that we were doing, and we were, like everybody else, we were just at home. We had a lot more free time. We responded to people within 5 minutes. We solved problems really quickly. And in many cases, that really like surprised them because they weren't getting it anywhere else. We've got to be able to cut through, not just with a product, but messaging and service that others are not. And I know that might seem really hard because you're just getting up and running, but you sort of have to treat it like a child in the sense that a child needs a lot more attention for the first couple of years, and you've got to be there to give it.
Yeah, I love that. There's one thing that we talked about in one of our modules, which was creating memorable experiences. And I think if people remember both negative and positive experiences, but we want them to remember more positive and negative experiences. So yeah, I love that.
You also make your website quite easy to navigate.
Yeah, well, obviously the CRO is going to be absolutely critical, and throwing in too many things that maybe makes her go, oh, no, I'm not so sure and not happy to convert. Using very basic language. I don't try and like complicate it in any sort of way, and it's all just tailored to a certain type of lady that I, you know, you've heard me harp on about.
Love it.
I was going to ask you, speak a lot about that avatar and the woman. With the amount of customers that you've had in this specific avatar, have you built a community around it?
Yes, but it's definitely something we need to do more of. So I do, and hopefully, maybe so you guys are doing this incredibly well, because I do hear of brands that had great success from having their own Facebook group. And the only reason why I haven't done it up to this moment in time is because I don't have the bandwidth to do it. Like, you need someone to moderate that and manage it. But next year I do plan and to have it, because Our Lady can be, you know, a bit sort of cautious, you know, and she may not have shopped online. Like a lot of the customers that we have that now are 7 orders deep, they've never ordered from anybody else. Their first experience with us. So that point is that they have a lot of questions. They're very scam aware, and if there was a group there that they could just speak with peers and, you know, get reassurance, and I'm sure that would be really effective. I think we do it to some degree, and I think in a lot of that is actually happening, which is gold and inside of the Facebook comments. It is incredible. We have hundreds of comments, and ladies asking another lady about, you know, what's the sizing? Is it true to size? And should I size down? And what's it like on this part of the body and that? So it is actually just happening, but I would like to take it to the next level.
Yeah. there is a good strategy around, if you follow the Stacks VIP group, if you sign up to Stacks Official and sign up to the VIP group, they'll throw you into a Facebook group. It's epic. Like they do community marketing exceptionally well. Yeah.
It's something I've got to do myself.
Yeah.
I'm sort of shifting away from trying to be everything to everybody, being very specific. And this avatar is something I'm trying to get my head around. What advice would you have to somebody like myself that needs to work on that avatar? Like, I'm happy to pick the phone up, and I've done it before. I get some good insights, but I don't know, what advice would you give?
Oh, talking about the phone, definitely asking open questions and shutting up is going to be your best thing. So if anybody's worked on the phone, that's absolutely key. Discipline, all right? So Lou will sort of hopefully agree with it. So we used to, at the market stall, and Lou used to say things like, okay, well, our woman in that instance was from teenager up to 60. So your mind actually naturally, for people who's not in marketing, think, okay, I need to sell to the biggest addressable market, and if I shoot for the stars and I land halfway, I'll be successful. Absolutely not. That's completely not going to work online. You need to first nail this really small market. And what you probably want to look at, I suppose if you look at like 100 or 1,000 customers, what are the consistencies within that profile? Like, what age are they? What gender are they? Why did they buy from us? What problems did we solve for them better than anybody else? And then just really hone in on that, and then develop a whole business around that. And after you do that, then maybe you can start adding on. But because of the size of the businesses that we are here, go really narrow before thinking about going broad.
Yeah. Cool. You're on that path already. You just got to find the person that uses it, right? Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's just a case of narrowing it right down.
Absolutely. Yeah, love it. Hey, Donald.
Thank you.
Time's up, mate. But this has been really good. I really appreciate it. And, you know, it's been... It's been great to see the growth, and you know, really happy to see where you guys are going and what the future might look like for you guys. So yeah, thanks for making the time. Awesome.
Appreciate it. It's been great.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.